YouTube, we are in the top 16 of the Meta Weekly with the new ban list applied to the event. Exactly what happened with the ban list is with the Oak being banned, and many people believe that Snake Eye is now a dead deck. It currently is tier 1, but with a few events using the post-ban list, it's probably going to be dropping dramatically, and it's against, at the moment, the other best deck where the Golem has recently just been limited to 1, a mini hit onto Crystron, but it was mostly another hit because of Snake Eye. So let's find out right here, right now, the true impact on what happens if you don't have an Oak in your deck. You can't further extend. You can't play through Ash as well. Let's see what happens. By watching as long as you can, that greatly supports the events. Hajime.
There can only be one winner, and you're looking at it. Let's go.
Normal Tristaros before making the plays here. That is the way. So in response to an activation, we could summon from the deck, then perform a synchro. We're going to draw, which we could then chain Tristaros, which we chose to not do. No thank you. As the Wedgie Temple puts 2 bodies from one from the deck, one from the hand into the back, or then summon a Doom Dragon to then make a Baron to floor instead with our Tristaros. What are our forms of disruption here? We do have the Baron to floor, negate anything, Infinity, negate anything. We have Impermanence, negate a monster. We have Cluster, pop a face-up card on the field. We have Tristaros, which could go into a form of disruption, about 5 negates, 5 disruption mates. Divine Temple, we're going to be activating the Tristaros in response, plus chaining the Cluster to wipe away the Divine Temple before it sets up a Snake Eye card into the back row. Return back the Citri as Tristaros summons the Sulfador into a Dragster spell and trap card negate. We're at 4 forms of disrupt now. We're going to Wanted Seeker, not negate. That's a bait mate, as we're now going to follow up with Deception. The activation of the card, don't negate. The activation of the effect, negate that. Get that trash out of here. There you go, exactly what we should be doing. Dragster, negate the proper effect. And it is now destroyed. We can follow up with the Bonfire. We have Wanted Seeker to also draw a card. You still have Imperm, Infinity, and Baron to floor. Engraver off the top of the deck. What the heck? Tract is now here. Tract is going to be searching our deck for nothing. Now, the Engraver does not have another Light Fiend engraved to reborn itself back. But we still have Bonfire and Diablo Star. Bonfire, come to us, Baron to floor, negate, and now the Diablo Star can't even be summoned. If we were to grab something like a Poplar, if they were to try to Poplar, negate, destroy Poplar, at least after being destroyed by a Baron to floor, would then put itself in the back row to then follow up with a Diablo Star. Too much. There's Oak. Oak is here. It's a Birch. This not being Oak, is that a problem right now? Well, Millennium plus Oak is combo. The Oak could send the Wedgie Temple, a Millennium, it could be in the back row, does not matter, and then summon the Snake Eye Ash. Wham bam, thank you ma'am from there. So this being a Birch, what does that mean? Well, we still have Diablo Star and a Zombie Vampire, which could help make our plays. And the Birch is special summonable, not with the Snake Eye in the field, but if you control a fire monster. Through the Millennium play, you will end up with a fire doomed dragon on the field, which will then allow you to special summon the Birch. Now, beyond its special summon, what does it do? It has the effect to send 2 face-up cards, including this card, to summon a Snake Eye from the deck. In many cases, there will be nothing to even summon from the deck, but if I want to be as generous as possible to this effect, it can add an extra form of disruption to your field. How so? Well, I think many of you can agree that Masquerena rarely links off with Desiree that we're not even playing. Oops. Well, if we did play Desiree, you rarely link off with Desiree, which then triggers the Desiree to send a card in the field to the grave. Now, what you would be able to do with the Birch is, after you Masquerena with something else, does not matter, you could then Birch, send the Desiree after Desiree negates, to then trigger the effect of Desiree to send a card from the field to the grave, which we don't even play. Okay, we have Wedgie Temple starting this off, putting up our Senjin and the Golem into the back row. Senjin searching for another Senjin. Golem's going to summon. No search for you, as we now go off into our Beansmith Requiem. Requiem can likely be negated by the Ash Blossom, but we're going to hold on to it because we know that it's possibly bait for other plays mate. Engraver is going to attempt to reborn as we have DD Crow. Manish, the Engraver. But I thought Ashing Reckham is great. If you have a Bestial, or in this case a DD Crow, I would say hold your Ash for another play. Let your Bestial tank the Fiendsmith play instead. Now, we have Deception. On the activation of the effect, this is a good Ash. Straight up, Ash, negate the Deception, mate. Now, we don't have a fire in the field, especially the Birch. We could just normal summon if we want to. We have Fiendsmith sequence to still make plays through double forms of disruption. Lacrima could target the banished Engraver, reborning it back or adding to the hand if we have not made the tracked play yet. And with this, we're now going into Wave King Caesar. Did we get negatively affected by the Birch not being an Oak? Objectively, straight up, yes. Birch not being an Oak was bad. This should have popped off. It could have sent the Deception Sinful into Ash, into Poplar, into setting up the Flamers, into Promethean. There was so much more we could have done, so we actually are seeing the downside already. We could Chain Banish a Little Knight. We have double special summon negate. Imperm onto the Little Knight instead of the Wave King Caesar. That is interesting. That's because the Millennium Engine completely tanks the Wave King Caesar. Can't negate the summon, can't negate the summon, and then Doom Dragon pushes it back and it can't negate the summon. It's sad how pathetic Wave King Caesar is against Millennium. And Konami did not care. They only put the Golem to 1, which is in effect in today's event, obviously. What? What do you mean I can't activate Wave King Caesar 3 freaking times? That's a 2-0. Whoa, shoot, damn, what the heck? Huh, yeah. Would we have lost game 2 if Birch was an Oak? I can confidently say we did not lose that if the Birch was Oak. Hajime. We have the effect of Drill Beam to negate anything and banish, plus, which is going to want to be saved for the Branded Fusion. If I'm a Branded player, I'm going to be fearing not only the Ash, but the Drill Beam. How do we play through both of those cards that hard stop our main combo? And then we have Little Knight, which will chain banish a monster on the field. We have Baldrake, which could banish from our grave, then banish a monster summoned from the extra deck. About 5 forms of Disrupt. Albion Shrouded, send for the deck. Retribution, grab the Cartesia. High Spirit is going to be negated by Ash. Why would we negate that with Ash? Well, we know we have Drill Beam for the Branded Fusion. High Spirit would be able to search our deck for any Albaz monster, plus set up a fusion monster in grave. We have Albaz on summon activating to potentially fuse, but it did not activate because it didn't want to get banished by the Little Knight. We're going to reborn the Magnum Hut. We're going to Cartesia, activate to special summon while we control an Albaz on the field. Albaz is now going to get banished away by the Little Knight. Now, with Cartesia and an Albaz in hand, we could still make a great play. We're going to instead be fusing into a Quiritis with our Ad Libitum. Quiritis is going to reduce the opposing Magnum Hut, wiping it out for 2,500 damage. You still have other plays which you didn't even do anything worth using Drill Beam on. Baldrake is here, trigger the regain to draw a card here. As the Druistorm is searched for in the end phase, we're going to, on the resolution of the Little Knight, banish away the Fallen of Albaz with our Drill Beam play. Now, Lordy Load, search again for our Barrel. While we have Barrel in the field, only then can we use the Drill Beam to reset itself onto the field. And now that we don't need the Barrel on field anymore, we're now going to go into Moon in the Closed Heaven, Dippity plus Moon into the Fiendsmith sequence. Thus, we're now going to be fusing the graveyard into a Fiendsmith Lacrima. We have the ability with Quiritis to reduce the opposing field to 0 attack. We have Lacrima Crimson, send from the deck Engraver, return Dippity back in the deck. As we now, to battle we go, outside of where Quiritis could even activate, lethal damage. Fiendsmith control is going to be good as long as the Bestials have something to banish. Against Crystron, I expect them to get clapped up today. I'm shocked that we're even playing Fiendsmith control with how prevalent Crystron is, as you're going to have to be banishing your own Lubellion to make plays. We have normal summon Albert grabbing our Branded Fusion. If you were to activate opening, it turns off your ability to go into an Anaconda possibly, which we don't even play. As we branded Fusion, is this the way? We could chain the opening to the Maxi to at least get a Quem onto the field. Very nice. And this will send the Tragedy by card effect, which could trigger its effect, or we could just wait for its other effect with the Serenir to set a branded spell from the grave onto the field. As the Quem triggers plus the Searing Dragon discarding another Tragedy, we are triggering the Tragedy. Target a branded spell trap in your graveyard, set it to your field. Wouldn't it be better to send maybe a branded in red to, or even the branded retribution, just set it through the Tragedy instead of searching? Well, I guess searching for the ad libitum, because you do play that makes things a bit different. Further committing into a second special summon under the effect of Maxi, we're going to set that branded in red. DD Crow does not have to banish a light or dark or even a monster, but it's going to get negated by the Mercurier, attempting to banish away the branded in red being set onto the field. Or I should say being added to the hand. Negate, add back mate. As the Magnum Hut, how does this work? Now, if we had an Albaz Fusion in the graveyard, you would want to, at the end of the main phase with your toggle on, to banish it. There were no Albaz Fusions in the grave to do so, thus, we're just going to use the Magnum Hut right now, because a good thing about Magnum Hut is it doesn't just search for Bestials, it could search for a barrel to make our next turn much better. Mirror Jade is going to banish you away. Banish. Now, we have Quem triggering to Reborn the Mercurier, which can activate while on the field. Did we forget that we are still under Max C? We've given them a draw freaking 3. We also have Banishment. Now, what are our forms of disruption here? We have the Mercurier, which will be able to negate a monster effect. The Mirror Jade has already activated its effect, so it does not work. But if we fuse the Libitum into, let's say, a Guardian Chimera to pop multiple cards, that's a disruption. Then the Mirror Jade will be reborn back to non-target monster banish again. We could Quem Reborn Albaz to fuse with their field, and then we could go into a form of disruption. We could then use the Banishment to fuse with either side of the field, and then into a form of disruption. About 7 forms of disruption is the ceiling. But it's likely not going to be that many forms of disrupt. Libellion, searching our deck, attempting to grab a Bestial. Mercurier says no. Negate. You have to remember, Mirror Jade right now is not activatable. We're going to Banishment, Reborn the Tragedy. So if this gets stopped, we lose at least 2 forms of disruption. Banish the Tragedy. We're now down to 4 forms of disrupt. Tragedy triggering to grab an Alibur for the next turn. Branded in red on the resolution, but we're going to get Drill Beamed. Drill Beam, negate, and banish the branded in red. How do we trigger the Libitum to reborn the Mirror Jade back in the field now? How many forms of disrupt do we even have left? We have Quem, Reborn Albaz into a fusion. Essentially just 2 disrupt is all we have. The ad libitum was not good. Oh no. Quem is now gone. We got nothing. 0, nada, no disruption. Wow. We got blown out. What the heck happened this duel? I had, what, 7 fingers up? How'd it go from 7 fingers to 0? Huh. Bestials are pretty good when you have something to banish. We're going to get rid of the Mirror Jade, which was fusion summoned, which will wipe away the field during the end phase. Will we even make it to the end phase? What I think is very powerful about Fiendsmith Control is they have room for Ignumde, which could add so much damage to the field. You'll want to link it off with the Lacrima, and then the Ignumde can attack, then Reborn Lacrima. Lacrima is going to be over 4,000 attack. Let's Lurie. Reborn from the grave after the Tract. Let's go into the Ignumde early. Now there's no fusion engrave to make its fusion play with. Let's 2,500, 24, 18, and we just be able to link this off and we're good. We just reborn Lurie. Lurie. Target a light non-link fiend and boost up that Lurie. How much damage did Lurie deal? 2,000 damage with the Lurie. Damn. 2-0 victory. Just a droll. Droll on the resolution of the Alibur, searching for a branded in high spirits. Ideally, you'd be able to chain the high spirits to the droll, but there's nothing to reveal in hand. Thus, we're just going to make our play under the Duel, as we already have our branded fusion. Thanks to playing 2 copies, we are more likely than not to have one in the hand. As we Lubellion it up. Lubellion, discard, fuse away into our Mirror Jade. Let's send to the grave the Albion, trigger the Albion during the end phase, as we also set up a branded loss. We have a Super Poly. Our forms of Disrupt will be, let's talk about it. We can Reborn from our grave to fuse with either field. That is a potential form of disruption, rarely going to actually happen though. And then the fusion summon itself, which could be, let's say, a Star Source to pop 1 to 2 cards on the field. We then could trigger the loss, grab a Mercurier to then negate a monster. We could non-target monster banish with the Mirror Jade. We could Super Poly fuse with either side of the field. We could then also use an Ash Blossom. It's about 6 disruption. Let's go. Wedju Temple. Banishment is going to be doing nothing as the Call of the Grave fingers the Albion. Shoot. Now we need to Super Poly to trigger loss to grab the Mercurier. We have Senjin summoning itself in the back row, which we could have ashed. We chose to not do so. Not that I'm thinking you should ash that. We should be trying to possibly try to ash the second effect of Isolde. Now, in essence, the core of Mirror Jade is if your opponent deals with it, it then deals with you in the end phase. But the Doom Dragon is not dealing with it. It's pushing it into the back row, so it doesn't trigger to wipe away the field during the end phase. And even more so of a problem is you can only control 1 Mirror Jade. And if it's in the back row face up, that's controlling a Mirror Jade. You cannot summon another one unless you have a way to get rid of it from your own freaking back row. We're gonna non-target monster banish. Get that Doom Dragon out of here. Pushed into the back row as we follow up with the Living Fossil. Reborn Droll, what the heck? As we Little Knight, which won't even activate on summon. We have Immortal Gearfried banishing. We have 2 warriors. Warrior plus warrior into Isolde. We're gonna full cope into this play. Do not ash the first effect. You'd be whiffing the whole duel. We add that card that can't even be used this turn. And before the second effect is activated, let's fuse it up into Mood Dragon. This will trigger the branded Lost. What are ways to deal with our Mirror Jade in the back row? How do we get rid of it? The Star Source cannot destroy cards you control. Only your opponent's cards it could destroy. And I heard that the TCG version of Star Source is misprinted. This states that you target cards your opponent controls up to the number of your light and dark monsters. Konami forgot to put your, which is a big deal because without the your, you could fuse with 2 dragons on the opponent's field. Let's say you're playing against Blue Eyes, and then it would trigger its effect to pop 2. But in Master Duel, you pop 0 because it has to be your. Now, we don't play the board load popper. I don't think it's ruled that way, though. I think they still properly rule it. I don't even know. Is it actually popping after super polying the opponent's field? Albion branded is here, plus the Lost. Search our deck here. Come to us, Albion Shrouded. What do you mean, it does? They cheat with Star Source and TCG? They changed it? They released an errata? Really? Grab a Fallen of Albaz, Cartesia, special summon itself onto the field here. TCG translations, recently, I think there's been some mishaps. I think Lordy Load is one of those mishaps. It doesn't say for the rest of the turn when I think it should, and there's been some arguments that it doesn't need to, but it's also creating even more confusion. And then the Star Source mishap of it not saying your. What is going on with quality control at Konami? Lethal damage. Let's hop into game 2. Begin. We forcibly have a spell negate, and it's only if the spell resolves without its activation being negated. We have Emperor Charles with 2 spell and trap card negates, which could stop the Angelica from negating something we don't want it to negate. So negate, negate, negate. We then could roll in whenever we want, equip onto a monster, which will trigger the Charles, one of them, to pop a card in the field non-targeting. We also have double monster negate. We could negate anything with Baron to floor. We could pop on special summon with Promethean. We could finger with the Call of the Grave. That is 9 forms of disruption. Let's go. Alibur. On summon, activate, Apollo, negate. And we're gonna roll in to also pop it. We don't want that Alibur on the field. Get the Alibur out of here. Negate and pop it, mate. Sure. Which we can now use Brandon in red. Brandon in red, we're gonna spell and trap card, negate. We are using the new ban list. So even with one Golem, FM production, still playing Millennium, obviously. Equip during the end phase, I mean, whatever that is, obviously we just negate it. That's it. Let's get to it. Baron to floor, pop it, flip it up, negate it. And just like that, FM production clapping game number 2. Negate. Let's finish this up. 11,000 damage on the field. Finish him. 1-1. High Spirits will be sending the Albion to search for a kit, and then kit can add nothing. It's supposed to add a branded fusion, but the Droll is going to stop it. Droll it. Damn. Now we have Albion, which can't add to the hand. It could put into the back row. Even though it can't add to the hand, Ash can still stop it from trying to add to the hand, even though Droll says you can't do that because Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulings. You have Banishment, which could reborn the nothing. Banishment is dead. Banishment cannot reborn Albaz. Banishment cannot reborn Albion unless you're a cheater. And we just have Magnum Hut against Infernoble. Does that, like, they don't have anything relevant that's later Dark in the Grave to banish. Uh-oh. And Gearblade steals games. Gearblade at the end of the damage step will ensure that Warrior and Fire monsters can make, all of them can make a second attack directly. It does not, we could have ended the duel, but now we can't attack directly. Maybe we could just set up a super first turn kill like field, right? Wow, we banished the dead banishment. Durandal, Pash is like, woo, let's go. As long as you don't negate my kit into Branded Fusion, we gotta play next turn. Which, that's all we have to really do, right? If we could stop Branded Fusion being added from kit, we still win. Let's go into Promethean Princess. Promethean. Remember, we cannot attack. I sold. We can still attack no monster, just not directly. Grief Tablet onto the Promethean. Promethean is negated, turning off the Fire Lock. It's a nice little play you got there. I like that a lot. Let's now make an Apollo USA. It feels cheesy when you see a Promethean turn into an Apollo, right? Because it's a Link 3, it wants to be in the graveyard. And you're gonna feel that with Malice. Their Link 3s want to be in the grave. Let's go into the Roland. Let's draw a card randomly with the Magus, maybe into a hand trap. A bad hand trap at the moment, it's not gonna be usable. Searching for an Al Mace. As we put into the back row a shield, summon the shield, equip onto the shield as we now go into a Baron to floor. Trigger the Almace to add engrave back to the hand, which ideally would be a Gearfried. To battle, we go, cannot attack directly, obviously. As we have Magus equipping onto the Baron to floor. What kind of protection does it receive? Albaz adding during the end phase to the Magnum Hunt. Now, what is going on here? The Magus states that our Baron to floor cannot be destroyed by battle. Who freaking cares? We have Apollo USA, double monster negate, Baron to floor negate anything. That's it. That is it. If we could play through 3 disruption, how many plays do we have? We could special kit, that's a play. We could normal Albaz, that's a play. We could use opening, that's a play. 3 negates, 3 plays. Let's see what happens. Normal the Albaz. Didn't even activate it. We just deleted 2 disruption. There's only Baron to floor now. What? Brand opening, summoning Alibur. Do you understand that we cannot negate Branded Fusion here? Well, we have Baron to floor. Branded Fusion will literally just add back to the hand and activate again. We can't negate it. So we have to probably try to negate Alibur, right? Oh, Promethean. I forgot about Promethean. We still have Promethean, which obviously is not doing so much here. We're going to be also chaining the Angelica to the Promethean to turn herself into non-disruption. It's not disrupt. Grab the Brain of Fusion, which Baron to floor can't really negate. So we didn't. We don't negate. We instead negate the Fusion monster instead, which was the correct idea. FM Production knows what he is doing. We did what we are supposed to do. We're going to protect ourselves from being destroyed by the card effect, but we are still negated. We're going to send to the grave for the Lubellion we sent from the deck to the grave. Lubellion is now going to be setting up into the back row of Brain had lost. Why are we adding back Brain of Fusion? Well, the kit is now going to be grabbing a Fusion play, maybe a branded in red, maybe a branded in white, plus the lost. We're out of disruption. It's all about the kit. Kit, summon, and search for the white. As I said, this is the play. Fuse it away, use the grave, summon a Mirror Jade, trigger the lost, search our deck. Pesh is clapping this up. We are in main phase 2 though. Non-target monster banish away the Promethean Princess. Cartesia special summon ready to fuse it up. Right away, right now, we're gonna fuse into a Star Source, which will pop 2 cards on the field. Wipe away the music. We are scooping! Wow. We didn't have battle protection for the Apollo. A normal summoned Lojin, 1800, swings over Apollo. We minused our 2 negates, and all we had was an activation negate, which is not great against Branded Fusion. Damn. That was crazy. I said time limit, but you know, it's, you know. We have the ability to negate anything that would target one of our Blue Eyes monsters, not a form of disruption. We do have Majesty, which will be able to pop 2 cards on the field. We have Purge, which can negate an interaction with the deck that includes searching but not special summoning. We have double Veiler monster negate. And then with the double Spirit Dragon, I'm not going to count the engraved negate, but it has double disruption tied to it through the 2 different ones. So 6 disrupt. 6 versus 6 cards in hand. It's even, right? Let's see what happens. Double Iris. We're going to right away go into the Ultimate Spirit Dragon. Ultimate Spirit Dragon again, into a Crimson Dragon here now. Sure, Crimson's going to be turning itself into a Cipher. Ciphered up. We're going to set up the poison, and now we're going to get popping. Now, what is going on here? If we pop the poison states that if this card is destroyed by card effect, you can target a face-up card in the field and destroy it, but the Cipher states that every single card in the field has a once-per-turn protection from being destroyed. Get popping. So we're now down to 5 disruption. Double Iris will trigger as we're attempting to pop the True Light. Again, True Light's protected by the Cipher, just once per turn here. As we grab a Star Pendulum Graph through the Iris being destroyed, we're going to activate the Valent Worlds to play a field spell into the opponent's field spell. We're going to negate that activation. Not today. Get that trash out of here. We're now down to 4 disruption. Duelist Alliance. If there's a card in the Pendulum Zone, we could add a Pendulum. So you want to add. The Purge stops the add. 3 disruption left. That is Veiler, and the Cipher monster negate. We are going to reduce the Cipher, searching for a Wisdom Eye. Harmonizing Magician plus the Wisdom Eye. We are now going to pop the Wisdom Eye to play an Oath Magician, add back from the extra deck to our hand, which is important for the Pendulum Sun, because if you want a Pendulum from the extra deck, it has to be to where a Link monster is pointing to or to an extra monster zone. Let's turn these 2 bodies into Baguska. Baguska is here, Plan B. All non-Link monsters are forced into defense. Now, the main out to Baguska is a Little Knight. Is Blue Eyes playing Little Knight here? No. We are not playing Little Knight, thus we don't have a good out to the Baguska on our own turn. Piri, Reese Map grabbing a Maiden from the deck. we're going to use the Mausoleum, additional summon the Maiden into a Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Spirit is locking you in a dragon only. That's why a lot of Blue Eyes players don't play Little Knight, because you can't go Spirit into the Little Knight play. As we now True Light, reborn our Blue Eyes White Dragon from Engrave. Let's turn the Cipher into a Typhon, which still can't be used. Okay. Typhon negated. We try and cheat. Now, what are our forms of Disrupt here? We could stop them from adding from the deck. We can negate an activation on the field. We could Valor, double negate. Now, Valor can negate the Baguska, which then will allow us to negate with the Ultimate Spirit. But the Spirit actually can't activate for two reasons. Well, it would be negated by Baguska, and it can't activate because the Typhon. Our own Typhon says that our own Ultimate Dragon cannot activate. I'm not really sure why Typhon's on the field. Oath, add back an extra deck monster to our hand. Let's Pendulum Shokan 3 bodies onto the field. Let's go into Electromite. Being a Link monster, it's not forcing a defense, it's not negated by the Baguska, but they do have Valor. And it's public knowledge Valor. I believe both of them were searched for, right? Negate the Electromite. Electromite's got double effect. It could also draw and add a card to the extra deck, so we stop both the effects essentially into now making a Sprite Elf. Elf, reborn Electromite back into a back-to-back Valor, negate, not today, mate. We have not committed to a normal summon yet. If we have a play with the Wisdom Eye, we're just gonna pass. Baguska is tanking the whole field. This is crazy. How do we deal with Baguska? Whoa, Drill Beam off the top of the deck. Are you gotta be freaking kidding me? No way. Well, we summoned Baguska in the wrong spot. We didn't know that we were going to summon Elf on the next turn. Had Baguska been behind the Elf, it obviously would not be targetable by the Drill Beam. We'd have to have a bit of some foresight to be able to preemptively set up Baguska into the right spot. Goodbye, Baguska. Everything in attack position. Is this now the end? Wow. Top deck Drill Beam. Crazy. 14,000 damage on the field. Is this the end? Surely it is. Light Storm Dragon is here. Get poppin', pop 2 back row cards. Electromite is going to trigger to draw a card as the Purge says no, and also destroys if we have another Trap Engrave, which we do. Negate and destroy. TTK was a close one. That was close. Had Baguska been untargetable, would it have been that big of a deal? They could have made a Hieratic Seal to be used during the opponent's turn, possibly, to then would at least, I mean, the Typhon really screwed us up by turning off our own monster, even if we were to deal with the Baguska. All right, let's go. That's unacceptable, though. Fever, phone, no. What the heck was that? Let's go. Maybe it was actually a tactical decision to instant surrender against Pendulum going first. You know it. It's one of the most powerful turn 1 decks, so why not? Let's speed on through this as TTK seemingly is playing no hand traps in his Chad deck. Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, Spirit Eyes of Blue, reborn the Blue Eyes here, trigger the Maiden. As we Mausoleum, target the Maiden to then chain, reborn the Sage. This is definitely different than game 1. You have double Spirit Dragon on the field. We're gonna go straight into the Ultimate Spirit. We're not waiting. Crimson is gonna go into a Cipher Divine, which will protect the Ultimate Spirit from being destroyed during the end phase. Reborn the Blue Eyes go into a 3rd copy of the Spirit Dragon. And our forms of disruption are, wow, welcome to the party, Ash. Negate anything, but does not destroy. Thus, it's usually better to negate a spell or trap so that the spell actually goes to the graveyard, where if you negate a monster, it will still be on the field. Cipher will negate a monster, then destroy any card in the field, and it's a mandatory effect. Also protecting all of your cards once from being destroyed. The Spirit Dragon could go into another form of disruption. We have non-target pop with the Majesty, which will be up to 2 cards. We have Valor, 5 forms of disrupt. 6 card hand, 5 disrupt. Let's go. Valent Worlds, we're not going to negate with Ultimate Spirit. We're going to use the Majesty instead. Pop it. Valent World allows you to summon a monster from your back row and also push an opposing monster from the field into the back row, which would mean the ultimate spirit being aligned with the true light, you push it into the back row if you have a monster in the same column, and it destroys the true light. Black Fang plus the Wisdom Eye. Whoa, we have the Lightstorm Dragon instead of the Majesty multiple poppin'. That is nuts. What the heck? That was enough. We still had negate anything, negate a monster, plus negate a monster. Damn, that is unfortunate. TTK, I really wanted to see an actual Game 2 victory, not just an early surrender. What the heck? Let's go. If you have Valor against Crystron, what do you use Valor on? I would say to Valor the Sulfador. Valor it up. Don't Ash, but Valor. Negate the Sulfador mate. Now from here, what do we do? Normal the Smyger, link off into a Clockwork Knight. Smyger banish, searching our deck for a cluster. Wow. This is what happens when we use our negates correctly, mate. Now, Ash would have also worked, but you don't know what other forms of extension they would have had. Do not Ash Sulfador. Ash the effect of the Tristaros in most cases, depending on the game state, of them attempting to summon 2 bodies from the deck. Now, with this, we have Valor and Cluster pop a face-up card in the field. Let's go. You may be wondering, why not at least Little Knight? The Sulfador locks you to machine monsters only when you commit to its summon to the field. Tracked. Add Engraver. We do have Max C, not a form of disruption, but could maybe draw into others. Max it up. We do not have Ash, nor Called By, no Crossout. We're going to chain Baldrake, banish the Lurie, ensuring you don't get to draw, and I still get the special summon. We still have the Cluster and Valor Cluster on the attack of the Baldrake. Pop it. Just Valor left. Engraver's going to be searching the deck for another copy of Tract, which we already activated. Set the Paradise, which is no good. We just have Valor. That's it. 1 Veil. With the 1 Veil against a Little Knight, ensuring that we will not be able to attack directly, we are actually protecting the Paradise. Paradise is not a disruption. I think we're kind of scooping anyway, right? We know we're screwed. We're chaining the Cluster. We didn't chain Cluster. We used it on Resolution. What? What is happening here? What are we doing? We didn't even dodge the Valor. We just, after got negated, we decided to kill our own Little Knight. Okay. Confused. Tristaros is here, ready to respond to anything. Summon the Sulfador. Sulfador send 2 cards from the deck to the grave, which the Little Knight would have dodged anyway. You try to Valor it, Little Knight chain banish it. You could even use Cluster to dodge it. We're going to pop the Crystron Synchro, summon 2 bodies from the deck, 1 from the grave or banish. We now have a Dragster, which can not only negate the activation of a spell and trap card, but also the effective one, meaning if the Paradise were in graveyard, it would be negatable. We are not able to attack directly here. Wait, we are, because you negated with Valor. That's why we allowed it to be able to attack directly but not have game. Nibiru, draw, pass, trapped with no Lurie. Lurie is banished, so adding with the Tract is no good, right? I mean, we would be able to, I guess, add Engraver, discard Engraver, summon Engraver, go into the Requiem. I mean, they got negates for days, though. Let's just hop into game 2, right? Nope, we're gonna hold it, but we could Ash the Roar or just Ash the Requiem. Not a problem. Requiem is here. Activate, Ash negate. Not today. Negate. Now, the Engrave Roar is sometimes a form of disruption, but only if you have a normal monster that you control or that is in the graveyard. That is a big enough monster. We're going to at least summon a Necroquip Princess, which you may be wondering, what the heck? Well, it still kind of is a what the heck, but if the opponent were to activate anything that causes them to discard their monster, the Necroquip Princess will be able to at least maybe draw into another form of a hand trap. Were we supposed to normal summon Driver, though? Right? We didn't normal summon. If we normal summon Driver, the Roar would have been able to be a form of disruption on their normal summon to non-target banish a monster on the field. Otherwise, the Roar is nothing. We just have one Ash and a DD Crow. We're going to Ash, negate the Senjin, Nate, chain Tristaros to the Ash, summon from the deck, then perform a Synchro Summon. That'll be the Sulfaneer is here into the Crystron Synchro, which could add from the grave, and we could use DD Crow to banish whatever you want to add. We're going to be using the effect of the Princess from our own hand trap that we discarded to activate. Get a free draw mate. The monster sent from the hand to the grave to activate any card or effect. We have Doom Dragon push the Princess back into DD Crow, banishing the Sulfaneer, attempting to reborn here. Not today. 5,600 damage on the field. Can we summon that Bestial for game? We have Tristaros poppin'. We have Max C. Uh-oh. We can't chain the Juristorm since there's no opposing body here. As we pop it, then summon into lethal damage, right? 50. Wait, we didn't summon 2 level 5s? Would that have been enough? Plus the Juristorm, we have also the Crystron Synchro triggering. Sulfador's gonna send 2 cards in the deck here. 7,400 damage. Not, well, they're only at 6,000 life, so we didn't need exactly 8,000. Well done. This is optional. So if we just summon 2 level 5s, we don't have to optionally give them another draw, and then we just go into battle phase for game. Nonetheless, as suspected, we clapped Fiendsmith control like nothing. Normal the Smiger, pop it with the Sulfador, mill 2 cards from the deck here. As we now set past what are our forms of disrupt. Full Loss Dead, Droll could stop them from further adding. Cluster could pop 1 card that's face up. We could imperm negate a monster. We can infinity negate anything. 4 forms of disruption. Ooh, Harpy Feather Duster and Heavy Storm. If we negate that, they have a follow-up Heavy Storm. Harpy Feather Duster, that is. Negate the Heavy Storm mate. Harpy Feather Duster. Say goodbye to a lot of disruption. What do we have left? We just have Droll. Uh-oh. Well, on the ad of the Unicorn, we could Droll him, which then Fenrir could banish the Infinity, which the Pydra is now not able to search for a Kaiman or a field spell to then search further for a lethal play. Let's further go into Fiendsmith, Kashtira, Fiendsmith, Tenpai. Still committing to the Requiem. Well, we're on a you trolled. Look, the lingering window, it shows it up here. Your own Droll is stopping your own Full Loss. Uh-oh. Surely this is not lethal damage, right? The Evignum it's lethal. Straight up, it's game. Wow. Lethal under Droll without even needing the Tenpai. Jesus. Let's burn for 1,200. 18. They are now in lethal range of a reborn Fiendsmith Lacrima. But boost, 4,200. Boom. Wow. That was good. That was great. The Full Loss, it was funny, but the Full Loss did not cost us the game. 1-0. Let's go. What do we have here? Full Loss, Ogre, Veiler, activate a summon for the deck. That is the Full Loss way. Bori. We are in trouble. Nibiru is trash against Tenpai. And Veiler negating our Sulfador. What do? What do indeed? They have lethal in hand. Maxi is also trash against Tenpai. So, uh-oh. Special the Unicorn, search our deck, and then Kaiman it up. We're also gonna have, whoa, we're going into the Fiendsmith plays. We're gonna Maxi chain to the Requiem, surely, or the Birth. Birth activate, chain Maxi, then chain Requiem to the Maxi, so they draw 1 less card here. nicely set up. Instead of just going right into the Requiem activation into a Maxi, then the Birth would also be another draw. We set it up where they have to choose which one they want to draw on. Birth, the Unicorn, and we now can Nibiru. Now, Kaiman can summon in the battle phase, but what if we don't? Well, we already committed to a normal summon, so it will be, unless we're adding the Genroku, which would be out of this world, not make sense. Don't even think about it, mate. Didn't even bother Nibiru. What would do? Unicorn the attack, banish away the extra deck monster. Into the Kaiman scoop. Add the Chundra, summon the Chundra. Fua loss on the attack as we're going to summon from the deck, but it does not matter at the start of the damage step, which means we couldn't even Ash it. Look at that, double draw, mate. Set up the Sengen summoning into the field, which we could pop to double the attack of one of our synchros. Let's synchro it up. We imperm, you chain the other one. What can you really do? As we now Bident Dragon. All the draws in the world are no good as the Nibiru can't be used in the battle phase. Lethal damage, 2-0 victory. Damn. Yuma with the Tenpai Fiendsmith. There's pure Tenpai, there's Fiendsmith Tenpai, there's the Sky Striker Tenpai. Again, I was having a pee thought while thinking about this duel, and I was thinking that Crystron can attack over the skull ritual with your Samurai Destroyer. Samurai Destroyer would turn off the boost, so it's no longer, and it also can't negate within that attack if you want to add any other effects. Maybe use Crystron Cluster on the attack to get poppin'. I think that's possibly going to be a big play for Crystron against this. Now, that is if Crystron is going second. It going first, looks like we are setting up a ton of disruption here. We have Ultimate Slayer as our board breaker play. What are we Ultimate Slaying with? If there's a synchro on the field, we could send them along, which would then target any face-up card afterward of dealing with the synchro to then return it back to the hand. The Infinity is what we're going to send an Aggregator with. So we're going to be getting rid of the Infinity, then Aggregator will negate another card. The Ultimate Slayer will be dealing with at least 2 forms of disruption. Can it deal with the cluster? If the cluster's already face up, which it won't be, you could then use the Aggregator to negate it. Otherwise, Aggregator negating the Photon Lord is possibly going to be the play, or it may be the Dragster. Now, it's important to note with the Ultimate Slayer, the opponent cannot activate any monster effects in response to this activation. So that means not even the Tristaros could chain to the Slayer, but then the Aggregator activating, that is when Tristaros could chain. We also have Impermanence. We got 2 forms of board breakers here. As the Ultimate Slay, get rid of the Infinity. Boom. Bounce back to the extra deck. Trigger the Aggregator. Negate the Photon Lord. Chain the Tristaros. Summon a Dragster. We get Imperm. Negate the Tristaros. And from here, we have Cluster and Droll. 2 forms of disruption. Is that enough to stop Voiceless Voice? We're not going to pop the barrier with the Cluster as we search for Saphira. Now, we search to then search again. Droll now turns off Saphira. What do? The Saphira ain't searching, but it's still going to send a ritual spell to the graveyard. The low is going to be setting up the Radiance. We're going to Cluster, pop it. Radiance attempting to summon a monster from the deck. Not today. MST, negate. And not only pop 1, but pop 2 cards. You have Blessing, which could add back the Engrave Radiance. We could use the Radiance during the opponent's turn. But at that point, I think this is too late. We have Purge and Radiance, which can go into a Sarvis into a Sarvis, negate an Inherent Special Summon. Cluster's just going to stop it right away. Purge stopping them from adding from the deck. Dragster can negate the Purge. Cluster could stop the Radiance. Boy, even with Ultimate Slayer in Impermanence, we got clapped. Now, we do get to go first. And as I was saying, Crystron going second, whipping out the Samurai Destroyer may be the way to win. Pre-prep, it's going to be searching for 2 cards, a Ritual Spell plus a Ritual Monster. We could hit them with the Droll. We didn't even Droll. Wow, we passed? What the heck is going on? Huh? What the? Ultimate Slayer turn 2 cards stuck on our hand. We're going to Ash negate the Senjin and then just cope that they don't have an inclusion to wham bam thank you ma'am right after our negates. Well, let's speed this up in game because we see that inclusion adds Sulfador. Sulfador, pop inclusion, Sulfador, send 2 cards in the deck here. This would be the Imperm or Veil or Choke Point. We're then going to Tristaros into the Crystron Synchro, add back from Engrave or Banish. This is now the Ash Choke Point, Ash on Tristaros, summoning 2 Bios in the deck as we then summon a 3rd through the Crystron being destroyed. Turn this into the Infinity. Now we're going to Sulfaneer, discard a Crystron, summon itself to then summon a monster from the deck after popping itself, as we now make a Samurai Destroyer. Crystron Inclusion, reborn from Engrave. 79 is the best you could do? All right. Now, from here, oh, that was it. Okay. Ooh, well, okay, we have pre-prep, which will be able to add something we could use our ritual with. We'll also have Ultimate Slayer. Now, what do we want to actually disrupt here? While we have a Crystron Synchro, the cluster could pop 2 face-up cards, but it's going to be 1 disruption, Infinity negate anything besides an Ultimate Slayer. We have Droll to disallow them from further adding after adding. Triple disruption plus Maxi. Ultimate Slay. Send the Herald of Arc-Light because we are desperate. Not even a Malong to go even with the Infinity. We're going to grab the Skull Guardian, get hit by the Droll. As we now... it's just like, what are we doing, right? We're out. We're gonna connect. Yep, I lost my connection. That's you only. Imagine if I didn't lose connection. You are lucky, Crystron. Let's see what happens. Imperm, negate the Fistfern. Now, this effect, in addition to summoning a Tristaros, would lock you into machine synchros only for the rest of the turn. So you are insured knowing that they're not going to be able to summon an Infinity if this were to even resolve. And it is kind of a desperate play. Now, beyond that being negated, we have Imperm, Ash, and Ogre. Barrier doesn't search on activation. It activates its effect after already being face up, thus the Ogre wipes it. So we're going to have to finger the Ogre, yes? Over the grave in response, as suspected. Finger and negate the Ogre mate. Now we have Ash and Imperm. If we can establish a low plus a ritual, our light monsters will be completely untargetable from the impermanence. Saphira search in our deck. Ash, negate. Low set up a continuous spell or trap, then Imperm will negate. Got all the perfect forms of disruption to completely stop them. Negate the low. And from there, what do? Nothing. We pass back to the opponent. We make a Link Karibo, and it's now your turn. Now, Fistfern is not able to get itself into the graveyard because it has to be a non-link machine with 1,000 attack or less. Are we going to pop itself again? Well, we just drew into a combo. Foolish Burial is full combo. And we have no way to stop it. What the heck? Was this the week to whip out Voiceless? We're going to be searching for the inclusion into the Sulfador. Sulfador is here. Activate, send 2 cards from the deck here. We're going to be using the inclusion, reborn, further going into our Crystron Synchro. All right. We tried. Show me the good. Show me. Convince me why I should be playing Voiceless right now. I want to dust off my low. Begin. Under the effect of Maxi, we have Ash negate the Maxi as we just have to deal with an impermanence. Imperm onto Diviner, sending from the deck to the grave or extra deck, a fairy. That taking up our normal summon, thus the low. Oh my Jesus, real? There's just like, we can't Almirage until like the cyber security, whatever that thing is. We have no play. We can't Link Karibo over that, ain't no way. Wow, we just have Super Poly and Ash. Right, Almirage into the other thing. Inclusion into the Sulfador. Wedju Temple is here. Sulfador into the back row, plus the Senjin. We're not going to use Ash on that. We're holding. Senjin into the back row. Send Sulfador plus Senjin for the Doom Dragon. Push the Diviner into the back row. We got 5750 on the field. Reborn Sulfador, almost lethal damage here. Send from the deck. We still have our normal summon. Normal summon a Maxi would be game. We don't even have to do that as we go into the battle phase. Super Poly, fuse up at the field into a Garura. Not big enough to wall off the Senjin, but block an attack, plus draw a card. Got the Radiance, not a good draw. As we now Fist Burn, search our deck for our Smiger. Foolish Burial, send from the deck to the grave. Ash, negate, not today, mate. We have already Inclusion. Inclusion would be able to search for the cluster. Smiger can now search for the cluster if we have not activated Smiger yet, which we have not. Cluster will be a form of disruption here. And with this, our forms are disrupt are just the cluster. Pop a card and Maxi. Low is going to unsummon, set up into the back row. Our Barrier the Voiceless, which the cluster is going to wipe it away. Not today. Now, you do want to chain to the activation of the effect, which is what we did. Very nice. We have Radiance. Radiance could summon a Sarvis onto the field. It's kind of cope. And then the cluster could stop it. Man, this is rough for Voiceless. I just don't see any plays. There's no way. So cluster pinning them down. 2-0 again. That's a 4-0 against Voiceless with Crystron. That was the end of the top 16 as we go into the top 8 where we are going to see Tenpai Fiendsmith. We saw even without the use of Tenpai that Fiendsmith alone was enough to deal over 8,000 damage through the effect of a Droll. Are you ready for Tenpai Fiendsmith to maybe take out what is now the new best current deck until some new good stuff comes out through Melissa and Raziel? Find out in the next video. Let's go.